Thank you for the introduction. And yeah, it's a shame everybody prefers alcohol to me.
I wouldn't take it personally.
But it's fine. I know these events. So yeah, Cesar Christopheridis worked for Social Bakers today. I really want to empower you that the people that have remained, I think you're going to get something actually quite valuable because it's coming into the industry by storm, and that is fraud. It's just been documented everywhere. If you went to Cannes this year, you know, Unilever pulled out of influencer marketing because all of their agencies and all of their brand managers were buying influence based on their community size. So we just have to stop doing it. And I want to empower you to make better decisions. So let's talk about how influencer marketing used to exist. And you know, a few decades ago, brands used to choose personalities to represent them as brand ambassadors. And it's only really in the last, I would say last 20 years, that the internet has really disrupted this phenomenon, and it's created microblogging, it's created, you know, all of these really niche sites where you can be an absolute enthusiast about something that you really believe in and trust. So this is where we are, and now a lot of this influencer marketing has shifted to social media. And if we recall back, you know, back in the day, you had people like Wedgwood, Langtry, Fatty Arbuckle, one of my favorites, who was a pioneer in really pushing the tobacco industry. And then that migrated to fictional characters. Or as I learned a few years ago, it was Coca-Cola that turned Santa Claus into a red Santa Claus. Originally, it was green. And of course, Tony the Tiger, every time I think of him, you know, I always make sure that I'm not going to let my children eat Frosties because they're full of sugar. But anyway, and now Flo, which is new to me, but she helped an American insurance company to make a lot of money. She's a very, very talented actress who was actually transformed into this fictional character. So, at a glance, why is it since 2014 that in this particular event, we place so much focus in influencer marketing? It's because most of the experimental budgets is no longer experimental, it's shifting. We're predicting that it will go way beyond 5 billion in the next 5 years. We know that influencer marketing is working because they stick to two fundamental practices, and that is their honesty and their sense of humor. It's still their backbone of why they're so successful. And talking to marketeers, over 90% that have used influencer marketing always experience really positive and superior brand awareness in their strategy. Last of all, we also know that marketeers love this channel because it also improves brand loyalty. So, why authenticity? Well, a lot of it is technological. When we started doing a lot of business in the US, I would switch on my laptop, and suddenly I would get all these pop-ups. And it's anonymous. The reason why, you know, influencer marketing is so powerful now is because 50% of consumers have ad blockers. So how are you going to communicate with them if they're not letting you in? So again, this is a really, really valid path to deliver your message. And of course, where Social Bakers is really involved in is based on audiences, is making the right decision. Who uses Marketo here? Anybody? Yeah? No? Okay. A couple of you. Well, they did a recent research, and the figures show that still a lot of consumers are saying to brands that they really do not understand their real necessities. As a result, over 50% of them really feel that the content that surfaced to them is irrelevant. So this is why, again, it reinforces why influencer marketing becomes so important. Pi. So let's look at some of the value that they bring to the table. First of all, you can save a lot of money in creation, a lot, because if you take influencer marketing for its principles, you never tell them what to do, right? So you think of all the production costs that a brand makes. And I was with a very important bread maker, and they spend like $500,000 in shooting an ad for 30 seconds. That you don't need to invest that sum of money anymore when you can find influencers that do it really well for you. And of course, it's the very creation of how they communicate that carries authenticity into their messages and builds this confidence amongst the consumers. So we still believe that it's just an amazing mix for your marketing strategy. And just to reinforce it, well, 50% of millennials, which are now way into their work career, they're getting, their pay grade is significantly increasing. Well, they prefer user-generated content over branded content. So in summary, by the use of this channel, you can detonate really genuine conversations without affecting user experience. You can use the user-generated content to really be part of your DNA, which will be everlasting. And most important is, 84% of consumers would much rather get a recommendation from this channel than from an ordinary brand advertisement. And last of all, for us, it's very important to understand your community's preference, because the selection process is just going to be really easy. You don't have to guess. You don't have to let people pitch you. If you look in a mirror and really understand what it is that people engage with in your community, the selection process doesn't have to be challenged, but it is at the moment. And these are the main challenges. So forever, since I've been working online, there's always been this overhanging cloud around regulation. Let's face it, the regulation is going to take forever, so we just got to be a little bit more practical. So at the moment, what our clients tell us is that there's really a lack of a defined selection process, the success criteria, search methodologies. How do you really find what's right for you? But for us, it's really important to use the analytics as part of that process to really understand what is it that a particular influencer looks like from an analytics point of view, and what impact has it had on the business after the campaign. So these are the 5 tips that you're welcome to take away and start integrating. So first, you really need to choose the type of influencer that you want, and still to this day, it's chosen by the size of his or her community, so size. Then you need to start to analyze the quality of their content. So you do that by looking at timeline, you look at whether videos are too short, too long. There's a whole doctrine behind how to measure quality of content, and I'm sure people have already covered it today. Study hashtags in the last 60 days, and the reason why is because influencers that are chosen now by brands have already worked with their competitors. So we still see that just the very really basic mistakes are still taken by a lot of the senior decision makers. And then last of all is, does the human that you have elected, does he or she deserve the right to represent you because of their values? Do they have a good track record in their life? So this is the lay of the land, and as well as using your celebrities and your talent, what we see here is that the majority of influencers in Latin America, the ones that are really mainly used, are the ones that have a followership of less than 1 million followers, if that makes sense. So it's not in that high range. In fact, all of the influencers now making money don't have to have a really large community base. 70% of all the influencers that are mentioned have less than 1 million fans. So the challenge that I was expecting there, for example, in a QA session is, well, yeah, that's right, but a lot of brands do want Cristiano Ronaldo or Neymar or Messi, but when we look at who's delivering impact, right? And impact is engagement, impact it's all of these goals that you give them. It's staggering to see that, again, 70% of the impact is delivered by influencers with less than 1 million followers. So this is why the market is so big. So once you've chosen the size, each of these will plug into your marketing funnel. So that the awareness, typically you will go to either a celebrity or a talent to give you the reach and the frequency. But then when you want to really shift the needle in terms of actions and conversions, you really need to look at a different range of influencers, and we're looking more at contracted micro and macro influencers. So we've seen a shift. Celebrity endorsement, I would say it's still there, and it still has its place, but now what's really getting all of these marketing dollars are your traditional grassroots influencers like Lily, Andrew, and Michelin. And the great thing about them is that they have different ways of communicating with their audience depending on the platforms. Because if you stick to the ingredient of let's go with someone like Dwayne, you're actually buying something that's already quite saturated and not very authentic. So this is just some of the brands that he worked with in the last 90 days. People are going to do it, and actually probably will work for maybe 10-15% of those brands. But in general, I think it's quite a dangerous road to take. Now in Latin America, this is a fresh study, more in where the segment is. These are the influencers that I would really think twice about working with. And the reason why, has this got a laser? Well, the reason why is, for example, Dom, she's mentioned over the last 10 months, like 1,300 different brands. It's like, there is a word you could use in this instance, but it's just not genuine. So it's really simple metrics that you can get from an analytics partner like Social Bakers. So again, just be careful with the amount of brands that these people are engaging with, because they're not going to bring any of the fundamental things that an influencer marketing strategy should bring. So these are some of the things that we believe you should focus on. So it's the growth of community. With a lot of fraud and fake communities, you see a lot of it drop off, and it's really, really sporadic. You can actually see that in analytics really, really clear. So stay away from that. Engagement with a couple of $1,000, I think we can probably turn any of you into an influencer in 24 hours. So there was click fraud back in the day, there was fan acquisition fraud, and now there's engagement fraud. You can buy probably, I don't know, Alvaro, my partner, is an expert in this, but you can buy a lot of interactions, a lot of consumer interactions for very little money. We're talking like $500, $1,000. So be careful with that. Reach and awareness, of course, if you can get your influencer to give you their tokens, then it's great, because you can earn a lot from the most intimate metrics like reach. Traffic generated, of course, if you're e-commerce, it's vital for your bottom line, which is synonymous with conversion. So why should we bother investing so much time in analyzing all of these influencers? It's hard enough finding them, and now we have to analyze them? Well, yes, you do, because there's a hell of a lot of them in Brazil. This is fresh data, came in yesterday. There's 750,000 influencers that you can engage in. So the plethora of the marketplace is insane. Although when you look at it, even though Argentina has it scores quite high, when you look at interactions, it's not up there with Mexico. I think you probably get much better results if you're looking for consumer interactions. So again, I'm happy to share these slides with anybody that needs them. So can everybody execute influencer marketing campaign? Absolutely. We've seen a pure play watch manufacturer that only used influencers for the sale, went extremely well. And even if you sell bananas, you can use influencer marketing. So I really welcome you to look up these hashtags. They really are they put quite an impression on you when you look at them. And then just to end with, I really like something that someone said to me earlier, in fact it was Ava, is your timeline is your biography and your content is your legacy, which I think is something that's quite important for influencer marketing. And with that, thank you very much, and I leave you all to have a great evening.